Now. Hopefully it's going to pop up. There we
We
go.
are live.
Hey, thanks, Ego. Welcome, everybody. Great to see everybody here today, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to mute everybody just so we don't have any accents in the background. The John Lavenia Success Mastermind. Welcome, all of us. It's me, Adrian Garner, today. It's wonderful to be here again with everybody. You really are my inspiration and my friends, and it's such a privilege to be able to speak to you. In order to speak today, I actually broke off some important research on the economy of Arizona, believe it or not. It seems as though a certain John the Magnet Lavenia is driving the whole thing. He's purchased such a diverse range of equipment recently, including world-beating Chinese telescopes, that he's moved the needle on the whole of the economic activity of Arizona, it would appear. Anyway, my subject today is generating joy for success. And that's because I was reflecting on how to get the most out of the day and how objectives are actually best achieved. And I wanted to share my thoughts on that and actually to really hear how you do it. So give me your ideas when we open up the floor. But it struck me that I feel that generating joy and being happy throughout the day generates the vibrations required in your mind to turn the ideas or those burning desires we keep talking about into success, into physical things, and into achievements. And Napoleon Hill discusses how important those burning desires are in keeping us going. We need fuel every single day. And for me, that fuel is joy and it's laughter. So generating joy for me is important to all of our projects as well as to our general well-being. And I think Therese would agree with that in after what she said in her sessions. Do we pay enough attention to this though? And do we pay enough attention to how we live every day? In my experience, I need to be in the vibe, as they say, in order to progress. Otherwise, that day can just become an unsatisfying battle. It can just amount to hand-to-hand combat with admin, with stress, and with other distractions. And I end the day feeling empty and not having achieved what I wanted if I'm not careful. So how can we better enjoy the day? How can we generate joy? How can we better profit from it? And I'm sure you're all going to share your ideas on that in a moment. But many of you have things that you definitely will be doing, and I think we've heard many of them over the past few months. I wanted to hear about that, definitely. So having been compared last week to a well-known and small grey-green wizened being with large pointed ears, Yoda to be precise, I'm seeing things from a very different perspective this week. I did take it very well. Pleased to be compared to Yoda, I was, as he might say. So I wanted to share my thoughts and just check really about how best to leave room for joy in the day. First thing for me is ticking things off your list, taking action and getting visible progress done, as John would say. Take the trouble to actually visibly tick things off that list. Celebrate the smallest win and congratulate yourself and really mean it because you've done that task. Mandy kindly posted in the Facebook group an item on Focus to Do Pomodoro app. There are various apps, various techniques for task completion out there, and Ego has covered those also in her tech talks. But uncompleted tasks are akin to a sack of stones that we are dragging along the road behind us. Empty the sack and generate those wins and that joy. It really, really works. Don't drag the sack behind you. It does hold you back and it feels bad. Be true to yourself is another one for me. We've heard this discussed several times recently. Be authentic, in other words. Being true to yourself in this context means being aligned with your goals and your mission and acting on your inner passions. If you can align yourself and your inner passions with your activities and your daily actions, then joy will definitely follow, and this will generate results in your day. It works for me. The alternative is not being true to your authentic self and to act instead in conformity with what other people expect, not what you want. And this for me would be like living in a straitjacket, bound tightly and unable to move and permanently suppressed. Now, is that a formula for joy and achievement? Definitely not. It's unlikely to bring you joy and create the vibrations needed to achieve your personal goals. it's going to hold you back. So if you're living outside yourself and your core goals, it's very, very hard to make progress and turn up. And as John would say, to be on purpose. Take control of the day and the way you live it. Definitely worth spending time thinking about. Celebrate yourself being you, being authentic, and how liberating that actually feels. The whole of this John Lavenia Success Mastermind experience and this mastermind group is there to assist us to be ourselves and to achieve our personal goals, your goals. We are there as a group, but this is all about you and getting support for what you are trying to do. So work on not just conforming to everyone else's wishes. That's crucial. That may take time, but reshape gradually. Tackle a situation bit by bit if you can't reshape it immediately. And sometimes we can't. There are choices. You can choose to follow the crowd, or you can choose to follow your own compass. And also social convention. Ignore social convention. It did have real power over us in past centuries, but it is now really breaking down. I know that's controversial perhaps, but I believe we can try more things now than we ever could have tried years ago. The world is more open to us than it was. So we can dare to dream and to try, and we do have access to areas of life that we might not have done before. Don't be embarrassed to try. Have a go. Create some joy in your life by trying something you've always wanted to try. Now, I know that there can be adverse circumstances and everyone's situation differs. And I've got no right to comment on adversity, particularly after we've heard some of the stories of the likes of what Ivier has been through. But in the spirit of support for anyone struggling at the moment, I did want to discuss it. If you're living in difficult conditions, we in this group, we're all here for you and to encourage you and help you. So seek to light that small inner candle, however small that is, and seek the small joys there are around you, particularly in this group, to sustain you on the bad days. Look forward, don't look down, look forward and up to the progress and towards the freedom that you can generate for yourself, and see your inner candle burning every day. Know that everyone here, I am absolutely sure, wants the best for you and is right behind you. Let the joy of just knowing that alone shine through and pull you along, because that's worth a lot. But always ask yourself as well, who are you? Build towards living as that person and living as you, and do it step by step. One of my favorite quotes of all time comes from the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. He said, every journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I've always remembered that. Feel the joy of the first step, then the next, and then the next. It feels good. Look at Adrian J. He blew us away yesterday with his go get it and just dive in and try attitude. And Ivier is exactly the same. Take those first steps, and it's self-fulfilling and self-propelling. You can't wait to take more when you've taken the first few and it feels good. No matter how many obstacles are thrown in our path, we are a house which we choose to build. So you choose how to construct that house, how strong the foundations are going to be. And even if it's tricky right now and you can't get everything done you want to do, you can actually start laying the foundations right now. There are foundations of knowledge and mindset that will later support the roof of your achievements when you put the roof on. So it's right now. Things are possible right now, today and every day, to start preparing. Generally, just celebrate life. Pierre Bezukhov, who was the central character in Tolstoy's War and Peace, went through imprisonment, starvation, hypothermia, and a forced march as a prisoner and faced certain death. And yet, having gone through all of that, he's saved. And he says, when our lives are knocked off course, we imagine everything in them is lost. It is only the start of something new and good. As long as there is life, there is happiness. There is a great deal still to come. And there is a great deal still to come. And joy can arise by simply celebrating our life and the opportunities we can dream of and that are still to come. And Khaled touched us very much yesterday with the story of his aunt and her refusal to give up and just wanting to make the most of life. And sorry again for your loss, Khaled, but that was inspiring just to hear that somebody was making the most of the years they'd actually been given, whether it was fair they had less or not. She just got on with it. So that to me is a great inspiration. Joy can also be generated by helping someone else. Just go out every day and smile and give help where you can. Even if it's small or random help, it connects, it goes out there, it's ripples in the pond, and it creates joy. And that joy reverberates and can reverberate back onto you. You can also be a magnet for joy yourself. You can attract joy into your own day and become a magnet for it. Just ask John the Magnet Lavenia, who we often describe as the magnet, but he does do it every day. Just watch John, he does it every day. You can attract joy to you and to your day by emitting positivity and happiness to those around you. You turn up for a job every day, and that job is being you. Do you really want your customers, in other words, all the people you deal with every day or that day, to think, oh no, it's that miserable, complaining, negative person again, and they try and avoid you? Or do you want to be seen as that positive person they can't wait to speak to? And I know how I feel about that for sure. But people are definitely attracted to positive, happy people, and they're repelled by the opposite. So if you want to bring joy into your day, you will attract the right people with the right attitude, and that will just change your whole day every day. So check, we all have to stop and check sometimes our behavior and our demeanor, how we're coming across, perhaps suppress the complaint we were going to make or the negative feelings we're carrying that day because we've had a bad day. I mean, look at Glenn. That's what he tells us. He turns up as himself every single day. And do you think we would ever know he was having a bad day? I don't think so. He never shows it. He's always just positive and outwardly energetic and enthusiastic. That's the other word that John and Glenn keep using. So switch on your inner joy magnet and attract that joy into your day and your life. And that will boost our accomplishments, all of us. I'm convinced by that. As an extension to being true to yourself, along the way, don't forget who you are and the meaning and purpose of life. That's important. Unhappiness and anxiety will arise from scrabbling around in that money barrel, but with no particular purpose or passion. It's not going to give you much at the end of the day, maybe a bit of cash, but no fulfillment. We need to remember ourselves in all of this and the ideas, the values, and the people that we've anchored ourselves to in what I would describe as the sea of life. Life is a vast ocean, and we all need those anchor points. Otherwise, we're adrift. And otherwise, the journey can be pretty joyless. I mean, imagine a ship endlessly collecting cargo across empty oceans, but with no joy back at port. Not going to get you very far. So creating joy, it really is a vast topic, and I'll just float a few more thoughts, and then we can discuss it, because I'd love to hear what you're going to say about this. Going back to my opening comments, though, I do feel that it really is a matter of generating joy in the day, which generates the vibrations in your mind to turn those ideas and burning desires into success. So what else can we do? Well, I think we can create change, and we can create surprise for us, our friends, and our loved ones. Change things regularly. Change your route, change your eating habits, perhaps speak to somebody new. Glenn would definitely tell you to do that. Focus on things you can change as well, and not the things you cannot change. You're just going to feel stress, and joy will be stifled by anxiety. If you're fighting things that you just cannot change and are not going to change, reassess the things you cannot change and just park them, because you can't change them. Also, don't be too inflexible. For me, I have to adapt and bend. If I'm too rigid and I'm not prepared to compromise, that generates a lot of stress, certainly not joy. That's going to impact my day and my performance and my mindset. Reassess those things that we're being too rigid about. Do they really matter? And if they really do matter, can I deal with them a different way? Maybe just change perspective. But again, setting up the whole day, we've read a lot of books recently about this. Setting up the whole day is important. You've got to allow joy to thrive and leave space for it in the day. The miracle morning a lot of us have read is all about starting the day well, having a meaningful start. That's important. Reward yourself as well for achieving the deadlines you've set during that day. Take the exercise during that day that you've blanked out and you've promised yourself. Get the fresh air. Allow the downtime when you can, because you need the downtime. It's amazing how much more productive and creative we can be after just a little bit of downtime. Treasure your project time as well. That's what I do. Even if it's frustrating sometimes and obstacles hit me during my project time I've set aside, remember that that project time is taking us nearer to achieving our goals and our desires and our ultimate joy. That project time, however badly it goes that day, is getting us forward. It is a joyous thing. Let's not also spend our day worrying about what others are doing and what they're saying, or in criticizing other people for what they're doing or saying. Let's invest our day in positive joy and good outcomes. The actions of others, they're going to resolve themselves. We will have our achievements to celebrate because of what we have done, not what they've done. I'm just going to throw in a few other thoughts as well, but circadian rhythms, I feel sure Therese will probably talk about in one of her sessions, but sleep and repair and the rhythm of life are crucial. Our whole body, and the scientists now know this for sure, our whole body, every cell in our body, literally, and every living thing on the planet is programmed according to a circadian rhythm, which is tied to the 24-hour cycle. This is believed to stretch right back to the earliest single organisms that are known. We need to look after our bodies and respect those daily rhythms, and also to sleep. That's going to affect your performance, your achievement in the day, and the joy you draw from the day. And I think we all know that from bitter experience. You can have a really bad day just by being worn out. And I thought about my epitaph the other day. I thought, crumbs, do I want to see my epitaph on a tombstone saying, I could have done that, or I gave up 3 feet short of gold? It would be better to read on it, I worked out what I could do. So find a way, let's all find a way and find something we can do about a plan or a situation. And at this point, I thought it was apt to refer back to our friend Yoda, who said, do or do not, there is no try. And that's very, very true. He also said, by the way, when 900 years old you reach, look as good you will not. So I'm bearing that one in mind as well. I'm going to note that down. Don't be put off by what you can't do. In other words, find a solution. There's always something you can do. Ask, what can I do about this? Allowing obstacles to build up in your mind will stop you. They're going to loiter in the back of your mind like an unwanted guest. And that is not going to bring us joy. It is going to create, almost guaranteed that it will create anxiety and negativity. So thinking about curtains of fear and anxiety that can hang in front of our eyes every day if we let them, we can examine and clean and open those curtains of anxiety and fear. We can let in light. And I would say that would bring joy to our day. So open the curtains onto our soul, accept the fears, anxieties, and concerns that we all have, but look at them for what they really are and consider how we can deal with them. We can generally start to move forward and deal with them. I really wanted to open up the floor at this point and ask you about your thoughts on all those ideas, how you create joy in your day, how you stay productive, and how you're getting success from your day. So I'd love to hear from you. Thanks very much for listening. I think Nicola had her hand up first. Nicola.
That was amazing. This is probably one of my favourite subjects, and you've just nailed it. You've pretty much covered every single element that we would ever need to keep joy running through the day. So I think we probably just need to record that and put that on repeat throughout our days. I thought that was brilliant. So I just one, I think you've probably touched on all of them, but just one that really came up for me quite emotionally really is, I think the biggest one for me is, I feel like I've finally this year, I mentioned I left work after a long 20-year corporate career, knew I needed to change and I knew I needed to find a purpose, but I wasn't quite sure what that was, and I was kind of halfway on the journey. But just recently, probably over the past month or so, I feel like I've finally found that purpose, and it's an authentic, it feels right. It feels like I'm now serving the greater good. And I have visions and goals and dreams. And for me, that joy, I have to connect with those every day. So I have to, as soon as I know that I am following my purpose and why I'm doing it and where I'm going, the joy just flows. And the difference I can feel, I mean, I'll be honest, I think we probably all have at some point this year, but across the summer months, I did get quite down, stressed. and everything just got really hard. And if I think now, you just got me thinking, nothing's changed in what I do day to day in terms of the activities. It's exactly the same as what I was trying to do for the past few months, but it just happens so much easier now. It's just flowing. There's different people coming into my life, opportunities are coming along, and I can only put that down to the fact that I'm now connected to a purpose which I truly believe in, and it feels authentic. So that's probably just the biggest one for me, in amongst everything else that I try and do on a morning. But I think that's where I've noticed the biggest shift. So
that's brilliant, Nicola. I mean, really, it's taken some of us a long time to find those things, I know, and it's they often get buried in a whole pile of work and a whole pile of stresses and things that we feel we have to do over the years. But I'm so glad a lot of us are gradually connecting, as you say, to those objectives, and it changes your whole day. It really resonates, and as you say, if you don't have that, it's so hard to turn up and do something really worthwhile. So glad to hear you're doing that, Nicola. It's always an inspiration to hear that you're making progress. I think it inspires all of us, as everyone's stories are doing. Thank you very much.
I do just a random one to throw in. I also created a little Spotify list called a joy list. So it's got all uplifting, kind of meaningful music, and that goes on every morning while I'm getting dressed. That's my other little must do every day.
Great idea. Great idea. Thank you, Nicola. We have Carlene now, has a hand up.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Adrian. This was like, from the moment you started speaking, like 5 seconds in, everything was just like, it was incredible. Everything you said was just, as Nicola mentioned, I have to go back and watch this again because it needs to be on repeat. So thank you, Adrian. Something that stood out in what you said was be true to yourself. And the reason why I like this group is because I can be true to myself. I don't have to, before we go live, I have to switch up and put on another mask. I can be me before we go live and after we go live. You can just be yourself. You can be vulnerable. You can be open. You can be honest. And there were times when I would look back and be like, well, wait, hang on, this is going to be on YouTube. And then after I'm like, whatever, who cares? Because if we continue to suppress who we are because we're worried about what people are going to think or what people are going to say, you can never live a life that's going to be joyful. So that's how I find my joy, by being myself. Because what had happened in the past, I would suppress myself because you want to make people feel comfortable. And a part of that has to do with the fact that many people around the world, they celebrate independence. And for some people, they also celebrate emancipation. So my ancestry has that history attached to it, where it's not really the most glamorous thing to talk about. And because of that, you tend to sometimes tiptoe through life. You try to not speak up in certain spaces because you don't want people to think or look at you differently. You don't want to have to fit into any stereotypes or whatever stigma people have. So you're constantly doing this whole shuffle and dance to not make anyone think that you're being too aggressive. If you speak a little bit too passionate, you have to forever be like making sure you don't upset anyone. And I am done with all of this. I'm so done, I swear to God. This is me. You gonna meet me, the way you see me here is the way you're gonna see me on the streets. I will always be me. I will never tiptoe anymore. I'm never suppressing my voice anymore. I am done trying to fit into whatever box society had for us, because first of all, where I come from, my community is still very closed-minded. We have to constantly be trying to get people to break away from a lot of mental chains that they have had put on them. So that's a whole other story. However, what I wanted to say is today, I remember Sainsbury's. For those of you who are British, you know Sainsbury's. So Sainsbury's has this commercial. It's a commercial, they come around every Christmas time. It's about 1914. I think it's the war between Britain and Germany, right? So for those of you who know this commercial, maybe you can actually have a visual of what I'm saying. The rest of you, if you've never seen this commercial, you need to look at it. So Sainsbury's has a commercial about the war, 1914. And these guys are in the trenches and they're huddling in the cold. It's cold, it's wet, they're miserable. It's Christmas Eve. And then the soldiers hear the other one start singing Silent Night. And then they all start singing Silent Night. And then one of the soldiers on Christmas morning puts his hat up through the hole, because they're all in these trenches. He puts his hat up and he waves his hat like this. And then he puts his hand and everyone's like, don't go out. But he goes out, and the British soldier goes out there and stands up in the middle of the battlefield. And the German soldiers all peer out and they're all looking at him. And eventually they all come out of the holes that they're in, the trenches, and they walk slowly towards each other and shake hands. And I'm looking at this commercial. I swear to you, every time I see it, I get goosebumps. They shake hands and start speaking, hi, this is me, what's your name? And they all speak to each other and start playing football and showing each other pictures of their families. And everyone's there laughing and having a good time. And then bombs start going off, and then they have to just basically go back into the trenches. And then one of the German soldiers opened his coat and realized that one of the British soldiers left him a bar of chocolate. So it was like a Christmas commercial for Sainsbury's. I will never forget looking at this, right? And thinking, in 1914, we're looking at people that are stood there going to war against each other. Now I'm able to step back and look at this now in 2016 or 2014 when it came out and say, why did they go back to fighting? Why are we fighting? Why are we letting people divide us? Why are we still playing this game where we're basically loyal to whatever it is and not realizing that we're pawns? At what point in time are we going to say enough is enough and just basically realize we're all human beings? I love every single one of you, Adrian, Jamie, Ego, Evelyn, Gail, Nicola, Ace Man, every single one of you, Jane, Habiba, every single one of us, we're human beings. And we are still playing this game that people have played for centuries, where divide and conquer, race, culture, religion, politics. We're playing this game and we're not being true to ourselves because we were loyal to many things that are actually destroying us as humans. And at what point in time do my children get to live in a world where there's no more of this shit? I'm so sick of it, because it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we constantly doing this to each other? But I'm not gonna stop being me. I'm gonna still be me, no matter what. And if you haven't seen that commercial, you should look at it, because that's all I'm gonna say. So Adrian, today was spectacular. And as far as I'm concerned, I think we need to be true to ourselves, stop suppressing who we are by trying to fit in or whatever it is what we're doing, and just get along and just basically love one another. That's it.
Wow, Carlene, I think we all need a deep breath after that. You've knocked us all out completely and you've crushed it. I mean, that's such power, and you really meant that. But I believe it too. I think this straitjacket I referred to is around all of us, and we're brought up like that, a lot of us, to worry about what other people are going to say. Now is the time. And I've seen so many people in this group start small within the group, just expand a little, try out being themselves a little, and then going beyond the group and going for promotions and doing other things. So it can be done. And this is like a dynamo to generate that energy and give you that safe space to try things out. I really, really agree with that, Carlene. And that was an incredibly passionate delivery. I could see you really meant that. And that was great to see. I 100% agree with you. So thank you for sharing that with us today. And we'll move on to Jamie. Jamie, what are you going to say after that?
Nothing. Carlene, energy is passion and passion is energy. And it just flows with you. It's inspiring to see how many people have come out of the back row and are now sitting in the front row here with this group. It's all inspiring, and it really it hits me right in the heart. There's a couple things I just want to mention quickly. One, Adrian, I'm with Carlene. I got to listen to this thing again. Your delivery, your smoothness. I think you need to call these guys who are doing these book on tapes, with Amazon, and start reading books as a profession, because you got it spot on. Sitting, listening to you and your wisdom and the way you deliver it, it's just fantastic. I might mess this up a little bit. I was either listening to a podcast or some telecast, or it was something I read, and somebody was complaining about they couldn't change. There wasn't anything that they could do that would help them along. And the person said, "Well, yes, you can. You can affect change. That's what we do." And they said, "Well, not in this world." And that person just stopped for a moment and said, "Then change your world." Just flat out just said, "Change your world." And it struck me. I think it was probably last week or the week before. And I've actually put it up here. not in my world, then change your world. And it's there. I mean, I don't need wallpaper anymore. I've got so many things pasted to my wall from this group, from the things we've shared. So anyway, wanted to put that out there. Carlene, nice, love it. You too, Adrian, and the group, love y'all. Thanks.
Jamie, that's fantastic. And Carlene, again, thank you so much, both of you. I agree, Jamie, change your world. I've done it. I personally did that. I was in my late 20s and I was not in tune at all with what I was doing. It wasn't what I'd chosen to do. I ended up being shoved into it. That's the way corporations work sometimes. And I left and moved country and changed everything. And you can do it. It's sometimes, obviously, there's risk and you've got to measure that. You've got to prepare. But there's always something you can think about doing. And I agree. If you try and live every day outside of yourself, as I said, it isn't going to end well. You're just going to build up depression and anxiety and other horrible feelings that eventually may overwhelm you. And it's just not necessary. It isn't necessary. We can actually really take on early warning of that sort of thing and check that it's not happening to us. Because if we let it roll, it does do a lot of damage, or it can do. So thank you to Carlene and Jamie for those incredible thoughts, really. Ego, here is Ego to share her thoughts with us.
What else can I say after that?
Yeah.
So firstly, Adrian, that was just spot on. I enjoyed every second of it. And like everyone has said, I definitely would like to listen to that time and time again. Nicola, I totally agree with you. Carlene, same thing. I'm actually still feeling emotional after hearing you, speak from your heart. Adrian, what you said about following the crowd, I think it's so key that we don't step out of ourselves, as you said. And I think it was a few weeks ago where you mentioned that we're not in competition with other people. It's a personal mission that we have for ourselves. So we are better at being ourselves rather than being somebody else. And then when we think about when you're yourself, joy and laughter just flows. And I did hear a quote one time that said, the most wasted of all days is one without laughter. Can you imagine? I mean, laughter is a gift. Joy is a gift. I know that not everyone has the ability to laugh for whatever reason. So we mustn't take that for granted. We should be intentional about our gratitude where it concerns joy and laughter. And then sometimes you kind of mentioned this as well about change. We can't change everything, but we need to identify the things that we can change and accept the things that we can't. Isn't that what the serenity prayer is? For, it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So where we know that there are things we can and can't change, we boldly go and change the things that we can. And then we kind of check off, yes, I've got this done. So there's nothing more rewarding than being yourself and being who you've been called to be. When we're that, then we're walking in purpose. We're achieving goals, we're attracting joy, we're attracting abundance. And that's what I want to talk about tomorrow. And everything falls into place. We attract friends. I mean, look at all the people on this call, all like minds. We're all knocking things out of the park, bit by bit, one step at a time. The biggest failure, I would say, it's not taking that step. Even if it's one step, we make that step, we celebrate that, and we move on to the next. So yes, I definitely will be listening to this again, Adrian. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic, Adrian. That's so kind of you to say that. That serenity prayer, yes, I look at it often. I actually wrote another version for this group, so I will dig it out, but I've written another version of it for all of us. Okay. And yes, as you say, nobody can criticize you for being yourself. You could take on a role as an actor in a show and you could get critics slating you and saying you've done a dreadful job, you didn't portray the character well. Nobody can say that about you performing as yourself, because it's you, and you choose how you want to end up being perceived and how you are. There's nobody else can say anything about that. They have no right to an opinion on that. You're the only person who has a right to an opinion about yourself. And never forget that. So I absolutely agree with you, Ego, 100%. Thank you very much. And Habiba has got a hand up.
There we go. I don't know that I have anything new to add. You guys have done just a beautiful job. Adrian, thank you for laying this out today, because it's something that's really been sitting in my heart a lot. As I shared with you guys yesterday, I just spent the last month with my mother, and even in the midst of preparing end of life kinds of things, we shared laughter and joy on a daily basis. And it just, and many times throughout the day. And so I've been sitting with this. It's like, how do I, now that I'm home alone and my kids are at their dad's house, and it's like, how do I incorporate that same kind of joy into doing similar kinds of tasks? It's not end of life for me necessarily, although we never know. But it's like, I've got things to do. I've got things, decluttering and paperwork and those kinds of things in the midst of running a business and taking care of my family and my household, right? And so I know that my tendency in the past has been to busy myself, and then I'll get to the end of the day and be like, what, what did, and so I've consciously been weaving in these things, many of which are on your list. It's how do I bring joy into my day? And I often have people ask me how I can be so positive in the midst of whatever else is going on. It's a trait that I've developed. I think, I'm blessed with a mother who has always sort of shown that aspect. But the two things that really pop out for me, in addition to the incredibly moving expression, thank you, Carlene, of being authentic, the two things that really pop out for me are gratitude. Like, gratitude is an essential quality for me, and it is what gets me through everything positive and negative. Like, it's just the gratitude for life in general and for all the bits and pieces. But the other piece, and it's one that Ego just mentioned as well, is laughter. Like, my mom just called me right before this call, and we're giggling about the silliest things, but that's some of the joy. It's like, I when I was there, I cleaned out a bunch of old expired teas. She had these boxes of tea that she never drinks, and they were years old. And it was like, Mom, I'm getting rid of these. And so I cleaned them all out. And she called me and was like, I don't know what to do. My teas aren't there. And I had replaced them with a few new ones, right? Well, so, and I'll keep this very brief, but she fixed this tea. And it was one I had never seen before. And I thought, we'll try this. And it's meant to be a cold brew tea. And it has blueberry and acai and all these other fun, qualities in it. So she made this tea, and it turned out to be sort of a navy blue color. So she just is like, I can't drink this because it's blue. And so it's that kind of just silliness of the stuff of life. And whether it's that, or whether it's, laughing about, she doesn't look good in the color white, or, it's just, we laugh a lot about colors, but, but it's just that silly kind of stuff. So one of the things that has occurred to me, because there is a piece in my heart that is aware that she's not going to be here to do that with me forever, and as we've been doing these preparations, that's some of the tenderness that's coming up. But then it's up to me to seek that joy, for me to find humor in the silliness of things. And if I can't find it in my day to day, I go look for it. I look up something funny, or I'll watch a funny show, or I'll, just looking for ways to incorporate laughter. And for me, the best of that is laughing at life itself, at the silliness of humanity and the way that we twist things in our heads and that kind of thing. We make things so serious so often. And so if for me, there's just this place of, be in gratitude and seek joy. And so all of these suggestions that you've made, Adrian, are like, yes, I'm going back. I will be making a list of reminders for myself to incorporate joy in a multitude of ways, so that when I get to my end, I want to go laughing. So
Habiba,
there's that.
fantastic. Fantastic. I absolutely agree with you. Your laugh is infectious, and I cannot get through the day and do a great job and achieve if there isn't a lot of laughter. I think Jaime will tell you that. Jaime will confirm that for sure. We have a lot of jokes together, and I do with the other members of the group too. And to me, a large quotient of that sort of fun in the day just gets us forward and helps us feel better, and that makes you achieve things. So I couldn't agree with you more, Habiba. It's lovely to hear you laughing about it too. That's just incredible. And
I want to leave you with one little poem, and it's not word for word. You'll have to look it up. But there's a poem by Hafiz that says, "In the end, we will all go to God. We can either go on a stretcher or we can go dancing." So I choose to go dancing. Thank you.
a lovely idea. That's a lovely idea. And again, I absolutely agree with that. We just can't take life too seriously, can we really, Habiba? It's too serious already. So if we don't lighten it up a bit, my gosh, we'll have a tough journey. So I agree, and glad that you're weaving things into your day. Otherwise, as I said, you're just spending the whole day dragging that sack of stones, those horrible tasks behind you, and not leaving any space for the joyous things you actually want to be doing. Those should come first. You should build those in first, and then shape up that sack of stones and reduce it, in my view anyway. Great, Habiba. Thank you so much. And Therese has got her hand up.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, what a joyful morning we're having. Thank you so much, Adrian, and everyone that's contributed. And yeah, I mean, it's a very intense subject. I think a lot of you have heard some of my story from my childhood. I think, I operate from this really open, empathetic, tender heart every single day. I always have. And I grew up in an environment where my very existence was like constantly, like I was like I was challenged, like, why am I here? Because I had like this real conflicting, very conflicting experiences, right? My father, I was an absolute daddy's girl. I don't think I've shared the exact story, but my dad had a vision of a baby girl, Therese, right? And my mom was done having children, right? But when my sister came, she wasn't Therese. My dad was very certain that she deserved a different name. She wasn't me. And so I think, so my mom had another child, right? Which was me, thankfully for her. But I think my entire life, my mom really had a bit of resentment toward me. So me being who I am, very loving, playful, I was very shy as a child. But I always felt this crushing of my spirit from her. And we've had a very contentious relationship my entire life. And so I felt like growing up, I made choices that I was always trying to make her happy, right? And so I was I wasn't making choices that were true to myself. So it's been a long journey of getting present with myself and I guess taking off the suit of who I was trying to be for her to make her happy. So again, the last, I don't know how many years, many years, I've gotten closer and closer to myself. And I think that this group has been, just so instrumental in me solidifying myself, and has been just such an instrumental part of my day-to-day joy. I would say for me, joy, when I'm not feeling it, I go outside and I can find it anywhere. And I really attribute that to my father, who was, a biologist, a scientist, a mathematician, and an outdoorsman. And he taught me everything about my love for nature. And he was very extroverted, engaging, had a lot of friends, and really got joy out of the simplest things. so, I always say, there's like these two sides of me. I was so much him, and then so much trying to tampen down that joy because my mom would get so frustrated by it. And so, but in any case, you bring me joy every single day, and I'm grateful for that. And when I don't have you, I take a little step outside, and I continue to fill myself with joy. And I hope that I hope it's obvious. I hope I share my inner joy, that it transcends through this medium. And so, yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Wonderful, Therese. That's wonderful. And, I really do feel, and I've felt the change in the joy coming out of you over the last few months. I think we've all seen it, and you just sound so much more yourself and happy to be yourself. That's great to see. And, I draw so much joy from this group every day. It is like a generator. It really, really is. So thank you for sharing that with us, Therese. Now going to go to Nikki. Nikki's had a hand up for a while. You need to unmute. There you go. Oh, we can't hear you, Nikki. Hang on, you're back on mute there. You're back on mute.
I'm not now.
Oh, there we go. There, we can hear you now. Great
talk, Adrian. Thank you. And I think, like everybody else, we're all going to be jumping on the recording to just see which bits we missed listening to it the first time. This group is becoming a bit like, I wrote it down, cognitive behavior therapy for me, because it's like every time I listen to something, I think, yeah, I need to do that. I need to do that. That's definitely, and there's loads in here that I need to implement. The first thing that really knocked me as being just so me is incomplete tasks are like a sack of stones. Well, that just hit me between the head. It's just because I am dragging around a quarry. I mean, it's not just a few stones, and it just made me realize that I leave things because I think, oh, it's getting really difficult. Oh, I've got to go and do this now. I'm a bit of a butterfly. But no, I need to sit and finish those things because then I'll feel so good about them. Paddy, this is not a good time. Okay. Sorry. The dog's decided to whine. The second thing that I really enjoyed was joy is stifled by anxiety. Well, that links, those two things therefore are linked for me really. Incomplete tasks brings anxiety, and therefore is stifling my joy. And I haven't ever said much about my story, but I'm really, really, really getting better this year since I've joined this group. It's probably the best format for me to actually feel welcome, that people will listen. And I've been in a bad situation for the last 10 years. I've come out of it. I've had severe depression, and it's just wonderful. Actually, I feel as if I'm coming back to life. And I just want to thank you all for that, because all of your shares, even when I don't share, I'm learning so much. I'm feeling human again, and that is so, so nice. And I'm really grateful to you. And I'm grateful for today. And I've got quite a few pointers. I need to go and sort out my music. I need to get a Spotify list. I don't know how to use Spotify. And I need to just sort out my morning routine so that I've got a little bit more joy to start with. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, all of you.
Oh, Nikki, that's incredible. And, you really have come back to life in a big way, and you are so funny, you write so well, you send lovely messages down the chat, and we need to hear more from you. You've got so much to say. It's just great to see you coming out behind the video camera and starting to speak. And I love the way you write. You're so funny. So thank you from all of us, really, for being there for all of us.
No,
we really appreciate it. Thank you. I think it's Adrian J next, the dynamo himself.
Hello, everybody. Love your topic today, Adrian, and it's one of my favorite topics. And I want to tell about a little story today about positivity and all that. And it came across to me, and I thought, you don't realize what's happening in the background until it actually happens. Now, the story is, a couple of days ago, my stepson, his gran became very ill. And I went up to him and said, look, they thought it was COVID. And I went up to him, I gave him a call. He's 14. I went up to him, I'm not bothered how old he is. I went over to him and I called him. I said, look, think positively. She's going to be okay. She will be fine. She's a fighter. And he had a little cry, but he got the gist. And then the next day, I think it was Monday, we had an update and we said to him, look, it's not COVID. She's got a chest infection. and he was a bit more updoing. And this is a teenager who doesn't listen to parents or listen to anything around you. So what happened then? I was saying, look, just think that she's going to be okay. Don't think negatively. She's a fighter. And I put this into it and this into it and into him. And today he came home today, and he went to his mum. I've spoken to me Antonita. My grand's going to be really good. I'm thinking positively. And I said, think positively. That's what you want. And you don't realize what happens in the background. And him coming out with that, a typical teenager, you listen, and he comes, I'm thinking positive. She's going to be okay. And it brought a little tear to my eyes that they are listening. And you don't realize the thing, what glow comes off you and how many affects other people until it actually happens. And it's just a nice story I want to mention with that, that they do listen. If you are positively and you're enthusiastic, people around you will think that way and feel that way. And I just made when he came out, I'm thinking positively, she's going to be okay. And I thought he didn't listen, but he is listening and he's thinking positively. And it's just great. It just really is great.
Now that's brilliant, Adrian. And you know, it is those ripples in the pond, being out there every day, just smiling at people. A lot of people never smile at anybody. And you got the person behind the counter never gets a smile or a thank you. You can just spread it around, and it all comes reverberating back. Plus, you know, just the sheer joy it gives you as to touching somebody else and really getting through to them. So I absolutely agree with that, Adrian. I think that's a fantastic sentiment. Nancy has got her hand up next.
Wow, Adrian, amazing, perfect timing. I love this topic. I am doing a workshop this weekend for one of the studios that I work with, and it's all about if you think about where your belly button is, between your belly button and your pubic bone. This is not a lesson on anatomy, but I'll just tell you this one thing. Okay, so that's like what we call the sacral chakra area, which is the place where our creative energy is stored. And so everything I'm going to be doing is directly related to what you're saying, because if we're holding physical tension or emotional tension, we're feeling stuck in that region of our body, it's really hard to experience joy and be creative. And so one of the things that what I do to kind of ignite my creativity, I'm a terrible visual artist, although I love to, kind of tech out the stick figures, but I'm more of I like to write, I like poetry. I also play music, but coloring is really therapeutic, you guys. So, oops, where is it? Let's see if I can there we go. So this is like one of the things that I've been working on. This is a coloring book, right? An adult coloring book. That's pretty amazing. Last Saturday, I also like Therese. I mean, I just go out in nature, and I'm living, my parents have 200 acres in the middle of nowhere. So I can go immediately outside and there's no one around and there's plenty of beauty to take in. But also I like to go, and now of course it's closed because it's the last of the season. But last Saturday, I went and I picked the last bunch of dahlias that were out and around, and just the sheer, just picking the flowers, it was very joyful. I felt like a little kid. We were out on this farm and just picking. I mean, there was so much to pick from. It was amazing. So that's something else. And then the last thing I want to share is you talk about like, I get joy by how I impact other people. Okay. So when I'm on the phone, I make this a game. Yesterday, I had kind of a nightmare with technology. I got locked out of 2 bank accounts, never got it solved. I was on the phone to customer service a whole bunch. And I thought, customer service people really have a kind of a crappy job where people end up getting really pissed off at them. And so I try and make those interactions sweet and like ask the person, hey, not just say, hey, how's your day, but really ask and listen, and then allow there to be some lightness as we're kind of troubleshooting together. That kind of interaction brings me joy all the time. So that's just something that I do. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for inspiring me.
Nancy, wonderful. All those suggestions, absolutely brilliant. And I love the idea of getting through to those people in those difficult roles. I try and do that as well. Sometimes we can get quite focused on ourselves, not what's happening to them. So you touch a lot of people, Nancy, with everything you're doing and the teaching you do, and you can change the world. And you are changing the world. That's just fantastic. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Julia has been patiently waiting to speak.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be repeating something that someone else already said, because I had to go out of the room to help my husband with something. But one thing that brings me joy, aside from all the wonderful ideas that you've all mentioned, is simply putting a smile on my face, sitting a little taller. There are all sorts of studies, I'm sure you've heard about it, but if you're feeling a little bit down, sit up straight, stand up. If you're going to give a speech, before you go out, look in the mirror and stand up straight and put a big smile on your face. And I think just that simple act of putting a smile on your face, or on my face anyway, changes my chemistry and makes it so much easier to have a positive attitude. I also wanted to jump on board with what everybody else is saying, that every time I tune into this group, which unfortunately isn't as often as I'd like, I learn so much and I love it. I am so inspired by all of you and your vulnerability and your willingness to share and your brilliant ideas. It's just fantastic. And then for my personal joy, I am not an artist in any other way, but I do fiber art, and that's the thing that just feeds my soul and renews me, and I need to do that more often. So that's all I've got.
Now, Julia, that's a lovely idea, and making and creating that can bring a lot of joy. It's that real tactile connection with something and doing something. It can really give us a lot. I agree with you. And smile, so important. Yes. Why not smile? Why not? What's the point of not smiling, really? And you can always look for the funny side in things, as Habiba was telling us. You can always look for the funny side. There's always a funnier side to something. You can always look for that and search for it, and that can help a lot. But thank you, Julia. That's tremendous. We're getting down to the top of the hour now, so we've got two more so far to speak, and then we might have to wrap up after that. Mandy has her hand up. Hi, Mandy. How are you doing?
Hi, Adrian. Hi, I heard a lot of that, but I was driving my son to his girlfriend, so I was in and out. But I heard a bit about authentic and joy. And I've been waiting for something like this chat to come up. So I think the universe has just delivered it for me today. Over the last couple of months, I think I've been on a real journey. When I joined, my self-esteem was probably at a really low ebb after years of beating myself up constantly for errors I was making either with my son or errors I was making at work, rather than focusing on the things that I'd done that were good. I always knew that I wasn't showing up in the way that I wanted to. And I'd also beat myself up for things that I had said or hadn't said on here, and how did it come across and what were people thinking of me. And I've seen over the months that people can be accepted for themselves. I'd like to thank Ego and Stuart for admitting that they also had confidence issues, because that was a good turning point for me as well. And Glenn for some of the comments he made about people don't think. What do people think? People don't think. Yeah, they don't pay the bills. So don't worry about people's opinions. And the one where he was talking about limiting belief. Oh yeah, that's my program. I love you. I love you. I love you. I've been following that as well. But there was still something missing. And I also posted to the chat this weekend something from Brené Brown, because I haven't had that much joy in my life, and I didn't know why. And I read hers, and it was all about shame, research, and vulnerabilities, and not genuine vulnerability. I don't know. I think some of the women may have read her stuff. And that you don't have joy because you're waiting for the other shoe to fall, and that you also look for perfection, and that you numb all your emotions along the way, which is what I know I've been doing. I want to show up. I want to take that small step to becoming more vulnerable here and to showing myself. Sorry. And who I really am, and not worrying about what people think, like Carlene said, and also some stuff that Habiba was saying about gratitude, and that gratitude can really replace joy. And I want to be able to say stuff that I haven't said before, which is that I do love this group. I do really appreciate this group, and I hadn't been able to say that before. And I know when we lost it last time, I was so upset that it had gone, and I would be so empty without everybody on this group. And that you're all really special, and just it's going to take me time, but just give me that time to slowly show up more and more as myself. And I just really needed to find a way to say that to the group, because I really do love you all, and I do really love how they allow people to just be who you want to be. And that's me.
Wow, Mandy, you've touched us all very deeply today, I'm sure. And you've got so much to offer. You're always out there. You're always trying to post stuff to help everybody. You're always trying to be helpful and back everybody else up. And this is just a mine of joy and support. And we're all there for you. And I'm so glad that you spoke today. So glad you spoke today. You've been speaking in the smaller groups a lot more, which is great to see. You're always trying to contribute. You're always trying to say something to help everybody. So we really appreciate that. And it's just so great that you spoke today and said those things. I feel exactly the same. Look, we all go through problems learning how to express ourselves, and we're not taught to do that, particularly at a younger age in certain situations, families and countries. And I think Carlene was alluding to that very much. So you found a place, Mandy, where really we just want you to be yourself, and we love you the way you are. So thank you so much for speaking. You touched us all. Thank you. I think we're going to finish up with Jaime, who will give us his wisdom following all of those comments. Jaime, that's just been an incredibly emotional exchange with everybody really today.
Yeah, Mandy, I think we've all won the lottery here to be able to get on here and have this be so cathartic for us all. I can't say enough about the group, and I can't say enough about you and your strength here and your courage to let it all out. It's tearing me up now. I'll be real quick because we're at 10:01. I just wanted to swing back to Carlene's comment about us being ourselves. And I posted this in the chat. If we're not going to be ourselves, then who are we then? And what's the point? Why are we bringing our representative to the table when that's really we're going to get found out, right? One way or the other, we're going to be exposed. So if we're not ourselves, who are we? And that, I use this word a lot, but it resonated with me, Carlene. I appreciate that. And then Nancy, when you were talking about, I do the same. It's funny. I get on the phone with the customer service people, or whoever has to call you, who deals with thousands of people a day, and they're probably not all nice. It's always my goal to try to somehow make that person laugh out loud and almost be embarrassed by it. That's my goal. And we sit here, it's whether it's the cable, it's your cell phone, whatever it is. Sometimes you sit here on hold for hours, or you're moved into 5 different departments and end up back with the same person. You have the same conversation, but the goal is to bring that person some joy, because that's all they're doing all day is they're talking to frustrated people. And I can't believe it, what that must be like. It's got to be, it's got to be a struggle. Anyway, that's all I have to say. We're over time. Sorry, Adrian. Thanks, everybody.
It's just great, Jaime. You're just such a brilliant person. And every time you speak, we just feel joy. I think you've always got so much to share with everybody, and you just sound so positive and so joyous always. So really, really appreciate that. Love having exchanges with you, Jaime. It's so much fun. Well, I mean, what do we say after that? I think we've had some incredible shares today, and Nicola, Habiba, Carlene, everyone that's spoken. I mean, some amazing things. And thank you, Nikki, and thank you, Mandy, particularly for talking to us really from the heart today. I mean, it really sort of bowled me over. So a bit of mundane housekeeping, just not to forget that it's the Stuart Wilde session tonight, Adventures in Mindset, I think 8 p.m. Eastern time. Check the calendar. I think I've got that right. So there is a session tonight. And really just wanted to end up by thanking you all enormously for being here to share this moment with us today. And I got a tremendous amount out of that. I really, really did. So really appreciate that. Thank you to everybody, and hope to see you later on. We're going to end up our session there and have a positive week. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.
Bye.